Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to deconstruct one of the absolute greatest television openings of all time. Today, we're exploring the deep psychology, the meticulous storytelling, and the cinematic brilliance that makes the pilot episode of Breaking Bad a literal masterpiece. We're not just going to recount the plot here. We're going to look under the hood to see exactly how creator Vince Gilligan engineered a perfect machine of television drama. Boom, we are tossed right into the suspense with this chaotic in medias res hook. It's this incredibly desperate video confession from a man standing out in the desolate New Mexico dirt. He's wearing nothing but his underwear and a gas mask, clutching a chrome 9mm pistol, and just waiting for the sirens to arrive. This isn't just some wild action scene. It's this bizarre collision of intense criminality and the quirkily offbeat. It establishes a totally surreal tone right out of the gate, introducing us to a highly articulate family man caught in a terrifying, completely absurd situation. Section 1. The perfect TV cold open. To really understand why this sequence grips us so completely, we have to look at the screenwriting mechanics behind it. You know, what's really fascinating is that Walt's classroom lecture on the nature of chemistry, it's actually the thesis statement for his entire psychological character arc. When Walt stands in front of his totally apathetic high school students and explains that chemistry is the study of change, solution, dissolution over and over, he's unconsciously foreshadowing his own trajectory. He is literally giving us the roadmap for the entire series. It's the perfect prologue to his metamorphosis into the alias Heisenberg. Section 2. The chemistry of decay. Let's step back in time a bit to explore the oppressive status quo of Walt's life before the desert. The visual juxtaposition the cinematography uses to map Walt's internal state is just brilliant. The script masterfully traps him in an urban and suburban setting that feels incredibly stifling. Think about it. He's stuck in a dark bedroom at 5 a.m., his brain just churning. This chaotic, interconnected domestic life contrasts so sharply with a vast, open desert we saw in the cold open. As academic analyses of the show have pointed out, the desert landscape serves as a really powerful metaphor for Walter's impending moral desolation and isolation as he descends into the criminal underworld. So the crucial point here is how the script meticulously piles on these daily indignities. In screenwriting terms, you often hear about the save the cat methodology, right? Well, here, the writers are essentially killing the cat. They stack humiliation after humiliation on Walt to build immense audience sympathy. I mean, from trudging on a broken stair-stepper like he's on a death march, to his wife dictating his diet with veggie bacon, to swallowing his pride while wiping down his own disrespectful student's car at his second job, it perfectly frames Walt as the ultimate underdog. The framing highlights his profound stagnation by putting the plaque of his past scientific brilliance right next to the reality of his current domestic entrapment. In a single cinematic sweep, we're reminded that Walt was this rising star in organic chemistry, a contributor to Nobel Prize-winning research back in 1985, and now he's an economically marginalized high school teacher forced to work a cash register. He is a man of massive potential, just suffocating under a mountain of failed promise. Section 3. A crisis of masculinity. This brings us to a fascinating thematic layer, analyzing Walt's underlying motivations. Academic analyses of the text suggest Walt's journey is deeply tied to a crisis of masculinity. He's introduced to us as a man completely defeated by his circumstances, dealing with gender-based anxiety in a modern era where he feels he's failed as a traditional provider. From this perspective, his entry into the drug trade isn't just about paying medical bills, it's a pursuit of agency, dignity, and power in a ruthless free market. He's essentially trying to reclaim his manhood by engaging the world entirely on his own terms. The creator's stated goal perfectly maps onto this psychological decay. Vince Gilligan famously pitched the series as turning a mild-mannered, effete schoolteacher, a modern-day Mr. Chips, into a ruthless, self-possessed individual trying to control his destiny, Scarface. It's a gripping journey from humiliating vulnerability to dignified, albeit totally terrifying toughness. Section 4. Catalysts and chemical reactions. Okay. So what is the precise spark that ignites this chemical reaction? The terminal diagnosis acts as the ultimate ticking clock, right? He has 2 years to live, and that entirely shatters his stagnant reality. But the true catalyst arrives when his brother-in-law Hank, a DEA agent, gets on the local news showing off a massive $700,000 drug bust. For an economically desperate genius, this offers a twisted, highly lucrative solution to his financial ruin. This directly leads Wall to ask for a ride along, stepping right into the upside-down world of crime. During that ride-along, spotting his former student, Jesse, forms the story's core partnership. Walt realizes he has the chemistry knowledge, for sure, but he needs someone who actually knows the business. This creates an incredible dynamic, the odd couple pairing of the mature, disciplined intellect of Walter White with the reckless, completely unpredictable chaos of Jesse Pinkman. Jesse acts as the perfect opponent and partner, constantly challenging Walt and accelerating his dangerous transformation.
The very next moment, we see the very first spark of his transformation. In a clothing store, some bullies start mocking his son, Walter Jr. Now, the old Walt would have kept his head down, no question. But the new Walt, he sneaks up, drops the massive jock with a brutal kick, and stomps on his ankle. It is a thrilling but highly morally ambiguous moment where Walt weaponizes his newfound absence of fear. We are rooting for him, absolutely, but there's a distinct, lingering dread because we're watching a good man start to break bad.
Section 5. The Birth of Heisenberg. Let's dive into the explosive climax in the RV. The script masterfully manipulates tension using what narrative analysts call a 5-point finale structure. The writers stack increasingly impossible threats against Walt. First, murderous drug dealers Crazy 8 and Emilio pull buns on him. Then, an unstoppable brush fire ignites right outside the RV. And finally, after he crashes into a ditch, the sirens approach. The threats escalate in the steady progression of power, demanding Walt use every single ounce of his intellect just to survive. Walt survives the drug dealers not with physical brawn, but with his genius-level intellect. He bargains for his life by offering to teach them his recipe, but instead, he utilizes basic chemistry to eliminate his opponents. He tosses red phosphors onto a hot plate, creating deadly phosgene gas, and locks them inside while he holds the doors shut. It is an awe-inspiring moment, the ultimate synthesis of his former life as a scientist and his brand new life as a survivor. Now, notice the masterful final reversal that wraps up the cold open. Walt is stranded, hearing those sirens getting closer. He makes the ultimate leap of faith. He decides to end it all rather than go to prison. He puts the gun to his head, pulls the trigger, but the safety is on. And in a brilliant twist of dramatic irony, the sirens screaming towards him don't belong to the police. They are fire trucks responding to the brush fire he accidentally started himself. He is literally saved by his own disastrous circumstances. The episode concludes with the chemical transformation fully realized. Walt returns home not as the defeated man we met at the start, but as a man keeping dark, thrilling secrets. He hides his newly laundered cash and his video confession in a shoebox in the garage. When he finally climbs into bed, he has regained a profound sense of power and domestic potency, ending the pilot with a physical manifestation of his reclaimed agency, but heavily foreshadowing the darkness to come. So the crucial takeaway here is that the chemical reaction has begun. The pilot flawlessly establishes the psychology of a marginalized genius seizing control of his life, but it leaves us with this intense, lingering dread of just what this transformation will end up costing everyone around him. Walt survived the desert, but we're left with one terrifying question. What happens when the deadly chemistry experiment follows him home? Next time in our Explainer series, we're going to dissect episode 2, where Walt and Jesse realize that creating the product was actually the easy part. It's cleaning up the mess, literally and morally, that will really test them. Until then, keep analyzing and keep learning.